And now, 700 Stubs. Ernest, scared stupid.
Why? Why Ernest scared stupid? Well, we have 700 or so, there's more, 700 movies to get through, mostly in autobiographical order, starting from age 12 when I started collecting these movie stubs. So a lot of the first several are going to be kids' movies. That's, okay to skip. Feel free. One thing I usually say is watch the movie before you watch this. This is especially for my kids. I'm making this for them. In this case, don't worry about it. Okay, so like I said, age 12, I start collecting these movie ticket stubs. It's 1991. What's going on in 1991? The Gulf War I ended. We lost. We had to go back and do another one, apparently. Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit comes out. Rodney King is beaten by the cops in LA. And Boris Yeltsin gets elected the first president of Russia. So there's 1991 in a nutshell. Movie tickets, this is a Saturday, October 19th, in Lake Charles, Louisiana, in the middle of the day. This is like 1:45 p.m. A movie ticket costs $3.50. And I'm going to see this movie at the Oak Park Cinema 6. There were 3 movie theaters at the time in Lake Charles, which sounds like a lot for such a small town. But there were 6 screens at the Oak Park, 3 screens at the one at the mall, the Prion Lake Cinema, and 3 screens at the Charles Cinema. But Oak Park, I think, was the newest one at the time. And I loved it. This was, for me, I hated going to church. I'm not religious. I don't like church. It's boring. It's weird to me. I think a lot of people get a lot out of it, and that's great for them. But for me, where I went to get something out of it was the movies. And Oak Park Cinema 6 was my church when I was, in the 7th grade at age 12. Which is ironic because when this cinema closed down, whoever bought it turned it into an actual church. They converted it into a church, which I found really bizarre and sad. And like, how did you do that? I don't know. Anyway, getting back to Ernest Scared Stupid. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, who you'll hear me mention a lot in these little chats, was a big influence on me and my personality. And she used to always say, if you can't say something nice about somebody, don't say anything at all. So Ernest Scared Stupid. Just kidding. I can say 2 nice things about it. Which, by the way, was an interesting piece of advice coming from a woman who would bash any president of the United States, whether it was a Republican or Democrat. She didn't care. She hated them all. She thought they were all liars and corrupt, and she was known to say, the president can kiss my ass. I think she was wise. I think she was very wise. So I'm going to say 2 things nice about Ernest Scared Stupid. The first thing is Jim Varney. Ernest, the guy who created the character of Ernest. He made the American dream possible for himself. He is a guy from Tennessee, and he created this character of Ernest, who is very earnest and a buffoon, but lovable. And he created this character for local TV commercials. He would get hired to do, like, I don't know, local commercials when broadcast was a thing. Would be like car commercials, waterbed commercials, local businesses. He was this recurring character in town. And he gets noticed. He gets a TV show out of it. He wins an Emmy. And I'll say this about Ernest. I think the superpower of this character is that he relates to children. He's like a grown child. He's like a man-child. He's an innocent, and he really sees kids, and he listens to them and relates to them, and they see him as an ally, which is a very natural thing for kids to like, and for parents to want to take their kids to see these movies, because it's really hard to find suitable content for your kids. So he really blew up, and he really I think rightfully so, even though it was like this weird redneck character. I think he called himself the Great Redneck Hope, sort of sarcastically at one point in this movie. He was sweet, and kids liked him. I liked him. I remember liking him as a kid. My parents liked him too. We were rednecks. He makes Ernest Goes to Camp, a very low budget, like $3 million budget film that makes a ton of profit. And he gets to make another movie, Ernest Saves Christmas, which is a lot bigger, and it had special effects, and he's driving Santa's sleigh and everything. And I remember as a kid liking those two movies. And then I think the third one is Ernest Scared Stupid, which honestly is a little weird. I don't know what it was originally going to be about, or like how they got to this point, but there's a troll. There's an ambiguous past timeline in which Ernest's ancestor banishes this menacing troll under an oak tree, like a sapling. And the idea is that the tree, as it grows and creates roots, will imprison the troll so it won't be able to menace the town or its children anymore, until such time as some progressively dumber descendant of this ancestor of Ernest unwittingly, stupidly releases the troll. And here we are in 1991 with Ernest releasing the troll. As far as I can tell, the troll's goal is to seek out individual children. It would have been a lot quicker to just go to McDonald's or like a school and like get a bunch of kids from a birthday party and, you know, just finish the job. But he goes one by one and gets these kids and turns them into wooden statues of themselves, places them in the oak tree. And when he gets enough of them, it's like collect them all, collect all the Pokemon, collect all the Happy Meal toys. When he gets enough, the tree will sprout trolls, and the trolls will take over the world or something. I don't know. So that's what the troll's trying to do. And this troll is gross, and it's a proper troll. You know, it's got two noses, so there's a lot of snot going on, and very funny for kids. Snot is a big crowd pleaser for kids. I can speak from experience. And as these movies typically go, the kids figure out the problem first, and they try to warn the adults, but the adults don't give it any credence. They don't believe the kids. This is kid movie 101. It's like the Goonies or anything else. But Ernest, as the child ally, does believe them and starts to fight with them and tries to protect them from this troll. So Ernest and the kids, thanks to the mentorship of this magical elderly woman of color, which we'll get to in a minute, figure out that the way to defeat this troll is unconditional love. And this manifests in this strange scene in the climax where Ernest is dancing with the troll and saying, "I love you," and hugging it and kissing it, and the troll doesn't know what to do, and I think it explodes. I think I can't, honestly, I don't remember. I did watch this again for this purpose, and I took notes, but I don't know what the hell happened to that troll after Ernest kissed it. I think it became confetti or something. Now, this is 1991, so I don't know what they were trying to say exactly, they weren't saying be kind to internet trolls and they'll go away or they'll change because the internet wasn't a thing. Like the World Wide Web, I think, was developed or released in 1991. So, Jim Varney isn't predicting the internet. Maybe they're just talking about bullies. Maybe they're just saying, I mean, clearly that's what it is. Bullies didn't get enough love. So if you just love bomb a bully, they will go away or they'll change. Maybe we can do that. Maybe if tell you what, if anybody is watching this video, there will be trolls. And I will love them unconditionally, and we'll see if that changes anything. Okay, now to the second of the two nice things I can say about this movie. Take a look at the magical elderly woman of color who helps Ernest and the kids figure out this mystery. Recognize this person? This is Catwoman from the 1966 Batman series. It's Eartha Kitt. She sings Santa Baby, which we hear every year at Christmas time, over and over. What happened to her? That she's way too good to be in this movie. What happened to her that she's in this movie? Where was she between Batman in the 60s and 1991? I was curious about this upon rewatching the movie for this purpose, and I looked into it. So what happened was, in 1968, Lady Bird Johnson, the First Lady, LBJ's wife, held a luncheon at the White House for women. Eartha Kitt would tell this story later that she wasn't aware, but all these women had something to do, some relationship, some tie to the White House. So it was basically a propaganda photo op. And it was about juvenile delinquency, which meant at the time kids protesting the war in Vietnam. At one point in the luncheon, apparently, Lady Bird Johnson says, "What's going on with all these kids? Why are they protesting in the streets? Why are there all these hippies? Juvenile delinquency is on the rise. What are we going to do?" So Eartha Kitt raises her hand and she's called upon to answer. And she gives roughly the following answer. I've seen multiple versions of it, but it's roughly this. Okay, I'm going to try to quote one version that I saw. "The children of America are not rebelling for no reason. They're not hippies for no reason at all. They're rebelling against something. There are many things burning the people of this country, particularly mothers, and they feel they're going to raise sons, and I know this. I know what this is like. And you have children of your own, Mrs. Johnson. We raise children to obey the 10 Commandments and say, 'Thou shalt not kill.' And then we send them to war in Vietnam and we tell them to kill." And this went over badly. As Eartha Kitt sat down, she tells the story that the woman next to her put a hand on her thigh and whispered in her ear and said, "Thank you for speaking up. We are all too scared to say something." But Lady Bird Johnson is in tears, and not 2 hours after this luncheon, Lyndon Johnson calls up Hollywood executives and says, "This woman, Eartha Kitt, should not have a career. I don't want to see her on TV or in the movies again." And he puts the CIA and the FBI on it, and they collaborate to create a dossier on her, calling her a deviant and a nymphomaniac. And she's basically blacklisted from Hollywood for a decade. Now, it's 2026 when I am making this video. And recently, nothing changes. People on television have said negative things about the president, about his policies, and the things that he's doing, and he has retaliated against them. To my kids, if you're watching this long after I'm gone, Look up Stephen Colbert, what happened to him. Look up Jimmy Kimmel. This stuff happens. So if I can leave you with anything here, even though it's not what Ernest Scared Stupid is about, it's what it has given us in returning Eartha Kitt to a career. And, you know, Jim Varney knew the story about the luncheon and what she said. And he wanted to work with her, and he was lucky to have her in the movie. But the point I want to make is that free speech isn't free. People have fought and died for you to have this right. And it is a sacred right. And it is a privilege. And it is not free. There is always a cost. There is a price to it, whether someone else paid with their life or you might pay with your career. But I would have you think about and consider that that price is worth it. Because what is the cost to humanity of our not speaking up? And I'm looking forward to our next story. See ya.